Toladot Noach, Noach ish sadik tamim hayam bedorotav. Chazal's critique of Noach lies in his apparent reluctance to vigorously propagate the moral compass of his time. While he was indeed righteous, his efforts to instill a sense of right and wrong among his contemporaries were somewhat lacking. In a stark contrast, Avraham Avinu dedicated his entire life to drawing people from all walks of life into embracing Hashem and the belief in one God. In contrast, Noach seemed less concerned with rectifying the misdeeds and treachery that had infested his generation. However, the perspective of the Ketav Sofer Reb Avraham Shmuel Binyamin Sofer Zatzal diverges from this criticism. Instead, he regards Noach's inaction as a positive choice. The reason for Noach's restraint and influence his contemporaries was his preoccupation with instilling righteousness and kindness in his own children. Noach had 3 boys, and he chose to invest his energies in nurturing them with proper values, prioritizing them over the wicked and corrupt people of his time. At the tender age of 25, Rav Moshe Feinstein accepted the mantle of Rabbanut in Luban, Russia during a challenging period for the Jewish community in Russia, as the communist government relentlessly sought to eradicate religious practices. For ordinary Jews, life was challenging, but community leaders and rabbis faced intense physical and mental torture, designed to discourage their religious devotion. Ritual slaughter performed by the shochet was initially banned, and later he himself was deported to Siberia. The shamosh of the main synagogue, along with his wife and 7 children, were compelled to live in a cramped 1-room shanty next to the synagogue, and soon after they had to accommodate the newly evicted rabbi and his family in the same small space. Late-night visits from the Russian secret police heightened the family's tension and fear, of course. The mikveh was shut down, and Reb Moshe used his clandestine ingenuity to maintain a kosher mikveh for the townspeople. Through all of these trials, Reb Moshe remained steadfast, and for 16 years he bore the brunt of the authorities' manipulations, but never faltered in fulfilling his communal duties. He often remarked, "A Jew is a soldier in the midst of battle, and a soldier never deserts the ranks." The community loved him for his unwavering dedication, and he reciprocated that love. When the news finally broke that the rabbi was leaving for America, it shocked the community. Even local Russian officers facilitated his paperwork easier to rid themselves of this relentless adversary. Community leaders rushed to his home, questioning why he was leaving and how he could abandon them when life was just as challenging for everyone else. Reb Moshe looked at their weary faces and acknowledged that it had been a tough decision. "Believe me," he said, "it's not the fear of the Russians or the danger that prompted my decision. I've dealt with that for so many years." They asked what had finally caused him to break. He responded, "Nothing caused me to break. It's just that the situation has changed, and I've always said a Jew is but a soldier in the midst of a battle, but the most important battle is to win in the battle of chinuch habanim, educating our children. My children are growing up, and it's impossible for me to raise them as God-fearing and observant Jews here in Russia. And while I want to remain here and guide you, my primary responsibility is to my children to ensure that they receive a true Torah education." Indeed, Rav Moshe came to America and continued to teach his children and all of Am Yisrael for the next 50 years. Ladies and gentlemen, due to the lamentable circumstances Am Yisrael finds itself in today, the plethora of video content containing the atrocities perpetrated upon our people is prodigious. The ability for anyone with a smartphone to instantly stream the horrific slaughter we experienced on Simchat Torah is treacherous. All Gedolei Yisrael are clearly instructing our nation not to watch any of this reprehensible depravity, as once this content passes through the gateway of our eyes, it implants an infectious image in our nishamot that is impossible to remove. Simply said, it's impossible to unsee the scene. Decades ago, the medical world taught us that witnessing atrocities, violence, or other distressing events leads to psychological trauma. It manifests as post-traumatic stress disorder and has long-lasting effects on an individual's mental health. Exposure to distressing events triggers a physiological stress response. It releases hormones such as cortisol, and chronic stress has adverse effects on mental health. The brain often stores emotionally charged events more strongly in memory, and this is why we remember disturbing images or experience for a very long time, as much as we wish we could forget them. In fact, Dr. Rachel Yehuda at Mount Sinai, she's a leading researcher in the field of trauma and PTSD. Her work contributed to our understanding how trauma actually is passed down through the generations. La'aleinu. Understanding the profound depth of the peril that surrounds us, perhaps as the united people, we can collectively shift our focus to the breathtaking beauty of Am Yisrael. In the days of the Kippur War of 67, a small percentage of the nation knew someone engaged in battle. Today, every one of us knows somebody in battle. The camaraderie, the outpouring of financial, physical, and mental support from all corners of the globe to aid our brethren under fire is nothing short of extraordinary and is reminiscent of our donations at the time of the building of the Mishkan. Borei Olam, the Creator, bears witness to the magnificent achdut of His children. If you choose to allow your children, regardless of their age, to consume video content, let it be the radiant beauty of Am Yisrael that graces their screens. Consider Siderot, a community with 90 B'nai Torah, families, some with as many as 14 children, now displaced. 45 of them are sheltered in the Grand Court Hotel. Our community in Brooklyn is supporting them. Formula for mothers who can no longer nurse is hand-delivered door to door. Handmade tzitzit, a symbol of our faith, is the most sought-after item for soldiers stationed on the Gaza border, and thousands a week are being distributed. The Sephardic Israel Aid has successfully sent 150 pallets of merchandise already distributed in Israel this week. The malevolent hands of our adversaries not only took our brothers and sisters, but also killed the cows and the chickens on the kibbutzim, severely disrupting food supply. Yet Am Yisrael, from thousands of miles away, continues to feed our families. Just as Noach knew that the only way to protect his children from the moral decay beyond the teva was to shield them, and Reb Moshe departed Russia with the safety of his children as his paramount concern, we too must recognize that our children are our most treasured possessions. If we seek to insulate and safeguard them, let us grant them the opportunity to witness the charm, the chen of Am Yisrael. Remember, it is impossible to unsee that which we have seen. Mika Amacha Yisrael. Shabbat Shalom.